right. Hello, my name is Christy Marcasani, and I'm the Director of International Recruitment and Admissions at the University of Northern Iowa. I'd like to welcome everybody today to our parent question and answer session. We're really excited because we have a group of esteemed panelists that are here to respond to questions that specifically look at concerns that we have received from the parents of our admitted students who are planning to come to study at UNI. So we are going to start by having everyone introduce themselves, and then we have some questions that have been submitted. But as we go along, if you have any questions, please note that you're able to ask questions. So just please type your questions and we'll try to respond to them throughout the presentation. So let me start by having our panelists introduce themselves. Dave, do you want to start?
Sure. Good morning. My name is David Marchesani. I am the Director of the Office of Academic Advising at the University of Northern Iowa here. I'm also a graduate of the university, both as an undergraduate and a master's degree student.
Thank you. Shahina?
Hello, my name is Shahina Amin. I'm a professor of economics, and I've been teaching here at UNI for 20 years. I was born and raised in Bangladesh, and I got my master's and PhD from Houston and Illinois, and then I'm here. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Shahina. Bill?
Bill Henniger. I'm a professor in family services. I also work in the provost office, so that's the vice president's office. And I got my PhD from Iowa State University, and I've been teaching here at UNI for about 8 or 9 years now.
Great. And Brian?
Awesome. My name is Brian Dowd. I'm an international admissions counselor here at the University of Northern Iowa. I did my undergrad and my master's degree here, both in the College of Business. And I've been working here for about 10 years. So, thank you, Christy.
Great. Thank you to all our panelists for taking their time to be here today. And as you'll see, we're all in our respective offices or houses because at the university, we are currently at a point where we're having all of our students do online classes, and all of our staff and faculty, most of our staff and faculty are working from home. So that's why we're in this current status. I also wanted to mention that we had planned to have Dr. Isabella Varela join us today, but she had some technical difficulties. So she has left some notes to share with us, but she's the Director of International Student and Scholars Office, and one of the people that is in charge of the support and services for our current international students. All right, so we're gonna get started, and we thought we would start off with one of the most kind of relevant issues that we have right now, which is the COVID-19 situation and the issues and concerns that have come up from this global crisis. And so we're really actually very fortunate because we have someone on our panel who's part of the tactical response team, which is a group that the university has put together to respond to all of the issues that are related to this situation. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave and have him talk about a little bit about what UNI has done to respond and accommodate, especially encouraging the continuation of education and students being able to engage what the university has done as a result of the virus. So Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Christy. Like many institutions, the university has gone to all online courses, and this is true both now for the spring 2020 classes, as well as our summer course offerings that we will be having. This was done in a very quick manner due to the circumstances. However, faculty have been receiving the support to convert their classes to online, so students can continue in the defined semester that we are following right now to finals week, which will be at the end of the first week in May. To support students, it was also important for us not only to have our instruction to be online, we've also made sure that we've tried to have our student services and our support services go online. And so our academic learning center, the Learning Center, which provides tutoring and other support services, is also offering both 24/7 online support and also one-on-one tutoring that's done through video conferencing software, such as the one that we're using today. In addition, our student services, such as financial aid, academic advising, and other support services are being provided so students can work with individuals from throughout campus to be able to continue their education and receive the same support. That's also true for our, as much as possible, our wellness services and our health, mental health services are also being offered through online versions. In addition, I would mention that the university is working very hard to make sure that we are accommodating students who might be having difficulty connecting through online services and trying to provide support and accommodations when necessary. And in addition, we are making some adjustments in policies so that way, as students find that an online course may be a different challenge to them, we can work with them so that way this semester may not adversely impact them because of the very quick changes in learning that are happening mid-semester here at the university.
Great. Thanks, Dave. And I know that for those of us who work closely with international students, we've been checking in on our students and making sure that any of their unique needs are being met and that also they're staying well and informed. So I think we've had a lot of good conversations and positive response from our students about how things have been handled. One question I did want to add, and this came from a parent, was dealing with news that they've heard about the harassment of international students related to COVID-19 and some of the rhetoric that has come from that. And I wanted to address that because I know it's a big concern for our parents. And I'll let you know that on our campus, we've not seen any major incidences related to this. We haven't seen, we met with our students from China, from the Asian countries, to ask them a little bit about how they were feeling and what they were experiencing. And they reported back to us that they were not experiencing any incidences of harassment. And we let them know what they should do if they did feel ever like they were in a situation where they were attacked or someone was negative towards them. So they know that there are there's people that are here to support them if that ever does happen. But at this time right now, we haven't seen that to be a problem on our campus. So, all right, so let's go to our next question. And this also relates to the current situation. And Brian, can you talk a little bit about what the Office of Admissions has done to accommodate all of the changes taking place right now with tests being postponed and exams being canceled? Please talk to our parents a little bit about that.
Awesome, thank you. So in response, one thing I truly do love about the University of Northern Iowa, we really do look at a case-by-case situation with our students. We make accommodations for our students, not just in the admissions process, but also based on a country process as well. So initially, when there were some closures due to COVID-19 in certain countries, we did what we could to make our testing services a little bit more flexible. So with the closing of the British Council's IELTS and ETS's TOEFL, we worked with another company called Duolingo to allow for that testing, which can be done at home, so students and families can stay safe. Additionally, we worked with our intensive English program to offer an online English test as well. And as things evolved, Cambridge, for students who are doing their A-levels or the IGCSEs, we understand those exams aren't going to be happening this year. We communicated that with our students, with their counselors, even parents as well. What we will do continually is to accommodate that process to ensure that every student does have access. We know it's a very difficult time for all individuals across the globe. We are just trying as much as we can to be flexible, which we are working with students in that instance on a case-by-case basis. Would you like to add anything to that, Christy?
No, I think that we are just making it clear that we are available to talk with students or parents or counselors and to react to whatever situation arises now or in the future. So. All right, so we're going to move on a little bit and we're going to talk a little bit about, there was a question that was submitted about what can my student expect when they first arrive at UNI? And what does UNI do to help integrate students into the campus and classroom? And this is a great question, and it's a very important question because we know how vital it is that when a student arrives on campus that they are able to get integrated and they're able to very quickly get used to the university so that they can be successful here on campus. So we do have a 5-day orientation that's available for our international students. This orientation provides sessions for students that talk a little bit about US culture, about the classroom, about things that they need to know on resources on campus and on immigration. So everything that they kind of need to know to get to know UNI, to get to know the community. They also will register for their classes and work with their departments to set up a plan of study. So there's a very comprehensive program at the very start of school that helps students be introduced to these important issues. But then even after school starts, all of our freshmen are put in a class called Strategies for Academic Success. And this class helps them to learn more about what they need to do to succeed here at UNI. And it helps them also to connect with the faculty, staff, and American students so that they have an opportunity to interact and feel like they're getting connected on the UNI campus. So those are some of the things that we're doing for students that are arriving. But one of the things that we find from our students is that the US education system is very different for them. And that they're not always used to what the classroom environment. So I thought, Shahina, could you talk a little bit about what the classroom environment is like here at UNI?
Sure. Most of our classes, it really depends on the discipline, meaning the student's major, but most of our classes are lecture-based. Some could be like chalk and talk, and some faculty members could use PowerPoint slides to lecture. There are classes like are discussion-based, or there are classes that will encourage group works, and many classes could be just all of the above, a combination of all of these things. But in general, faculty, these are smaller class sizes compared to many universities, and upper division classes are even smaller in sizes. So faculty are very close with the students. We know everybody by their name by first or second week of classes, and being mindful of the student situation. In the classroom, there are a lot of interaction. Faculty like questions and participation, and they give like one-on-one attention in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. Faculty do have office hours, set office hours, walk-in office hours when the students can come in and ask a question. If they're shy to ask a question in the classroom, they can always come and visit with the professor or set up a time. So faculty are really close with the students. And this is kind of what we take pride in here at UNI, that we give special attention to our students because the class sizes are not like 300, 400 students in one class. There are a few classes which could be larger, but most of our classes are smaller, and faculty can give attention to the students. So that is all I can think of right now. But as I want to mention, emphasize again that students do get a lot of personal attention in the classroom and outside the classroom. I hope I answered your question.
Great. Thanks, Fahina. And I think you are right on. From the international students I talk to, they're always really amazed at how personable and approachable our faculty are. And they say that that makes a really big difference in their ability to learn, to get their questions answered. So I think that that type of classroom environment is really vital for our students coming to UNI. And Bill, kind of branching off of that, for our students that are first year students that are coming in, what kind of challenges do you see that they might have integrating into a U.S. classroom? And what do you do as a professor to try to help them overcome that?
So that's a really good question. One of the things that I notice about specifically international students is I think the expectation when you approach a faculty, when it's okay to talk to them is different. In the US, it is totally okay to come up to a faculty the first day, introduce yourself. It is totally okay to come to them if you have questions. And so when I see international students struggle, I think they, a lot of times they feel a little bit like they shouldn't be approaching us with questions. So what I try to do is introduce myself to all my students. The first day, I try to learn their names, and then when they come to class, if I can find some way to, bond with them, if they're reading a book, I notice, ask them about a book. For students, I have pets, so if you ask me about my dog, you're going to get an earful about my dog. Anything like that really helps the interaction. I know in different countries, faculty are very removed. And you don't talk to them. They're much more revered. In the U.S., especially at UNI, we try to have a much more personal interaction with our students. So that's really big. Like Shahina said, office hours. All of the faculty at UNI have 3 office hours per week. So your students should be coming to those office hours whenever they have a question, whenever they need to talk. I will bore your students talking about the stuff that I am interested in long before they will become bored of me. So, they will be bored of me long before I become bored of them. So that is one of the things I would say. Use those office hours, come in. And then if your student ever has an issue in class, I would tell them to go talk to the faculty member first. That's really important. Most of the time that can be worked out. It's just a miscommunication. If it's something that can't be resolved, the next step would be to go to their department head. So that's why the department head is there. They can help solve those issues, but 99% of the time we can fix it by a student just coming up and asking me a question.
All right, great. Thanks, Bill. Now, you know that in other countries, sometimes every day after class, the students clap for their faculty member. That wouldn't be so bad, right?
I have never been applauded.
Yeah, so I guess we sacrifice a few things, but I do think we have a really good environment in our classes for students. And we really push our students to take advantage of the resources we have on campus and the great faculty that we have. So thanks for those comments. Let's talk a little bit about students choosing majors. One of the unique things in the US is that we have a lot of flexibility as students are looking to choose what they want to study and what kind of career they want to have. And not only do we have a lot of flexibility, we have a lot of options. At UNI, we have 90 different majors for undergraduate students. We also have minors and certificates. And students can choose a combination of all of these things in order to select the best program of study that will help them meet their goals. But what we also find, and what this parent found, is that their son keeps changing his mind about what he wants to study. So this parent wants to know, is that a problem if the son is changing their mind? And what kind of resources does UNI have to help their student make sure that they're in the right program for them? Dave, can you respond to this?
Yeah, it's both an exciting time for a student to have so many possibilities, but it can sometimes be overwhelming, or they may not even know all the possibilities that are out there. And so
Sure.
at the University of Northern Iowa, and going off what we've already all talked about, is there's a lot of services, but also a lot of personalized attention opportunities that students can take advantage of to be able to learn more about themselves and make connections both to their academics as well as their career interests after graduation. So at the University of Northern Iowa, the Office of Academic Advising, the office that I'm with, we have a staff of dedicated advisors who will work with students one-on-one to really help them explore who they are, where their interests are, but then help them to make connections to what majors are out there, as well as what career possibilities may also be of interest. And when we're doing that one-on-one, we do try to take a lot of opportunity to try to get to know the student a little bit more, because obviously each student brings their own factors, what their interests are, what their skills are. Are they going back to their home country after they're done? So that way, that's a factor. There's a lot of influences. And so we have things both individually, group-wise, formally and informally that we try to do to try to help students. Students who come to UNI without declaring a major are called exploratory. And we have a very structured program that they can go through if they start that way. However, many students come to UNI with a declared major, but then as this question insinuated, may change their mind or not so sure they've made the right decision. So we can help students at any point explore their interests, see their connections, see what might be best for them, or as you alluded to, Christy, seeing if there's some things we can add, another minor or certificate, or things that can help enhance and expand what they're ultimately looking for. One of the cool events that we have each year is called our Majors in Minutes. It's a way for students at any level, but more significantly probably for new students in their first year or in their second year, to connect with students who are in their upper class levels, their junior and senior year students, to talk about majors, learn about the opportunities, to really learn and talk a lot more about what those possibilities could be as they moved up through their time here at the university. And also I'd mention, as Bill alluded to, faculty are very accessible and are very willing to talk about their interests, their career connections, their ideas. And so it's not just working with one advisor and an individual, but it's talking with faculty who might be an area of interest. It might even be doing a job shadow or experiential learning or a student organization to help students really understand where their passion is, where their connection is, and where they might really utilize their skills and strengths in the best way.
That's awesome, Dave. Thanks for sharing that. And I think that it's a great point that, you know, we have resources. So even if a student comes to UNI and is undecided or is exploring or ends up finding out that this major isn't right for them, that we're going to be able to help them get on the right path. So that's great to hear. So.
Christy, I'd probably mention as well, and you alluded to the flexibility, UNI has a common core. Many people may have heard of a liberal arts core or a general education program. And UNI has a liberal arts core that's a common core. So it allows students to come to UNI, start taking some of those classes, learn more about major options, and then be able to move more seamlessly into some different areas as well.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So we're going to talk a little bit about a student who's struggling in the classroom. We talked a little bit about this before, but I also wanted to point out or talk a little bit about resources on campus that a student might turn to if they find that they're having difficulty in a class, or if they find that they're struggling with their studies, some of the choices they might have at UNI. Bill had talked a little bit about going to talk to the faculty, and I think that that's one of the first things that they should do. But when you say that, Bill, that's like step one is talk to your professor.
Yep, I would suggest step one, talk to your professor. I would also point out that we do have an academic learning center in the library, and they can give help with tutoring, they can help with writing, they can help with math. So those are all things that a student can utilize. Their student fees pay for that. They are open till, I believe, 8 o'clock at night. You can also, right now, they are still open. You can communicate with them online via chat. So even when the university is closed down in the midst of the COVID kind of crisis that's going on, we're still giving students those resources. So that's really important. Another one I would point out is the Dean of Students. So if a student is sick, if a student has family members who are sick, anything like that, the Dean of Students office is kind of the university's hub to connect students with resources. If a student is having mental health crisis, anything, a health crisis, Dean of Students can connect them with resources. Finally, if it is an academic issue and it cannot be resolved at the department or the dean level, the office of the provost, where I work part-time, can also solve a lot of those problems. Whether it be a student request, sometimes we have students who maybe a course that they really need is not being offered. That does not mean the student will have to wait to graduate. Sometimes they should go to their advisor. Their advisor can put in a student request, and sometimes we can substitute a course. So the biggest takeaway from all of those resources, and I know you all won't remember all of those that I just said, which is totally fine because it's a lot of information. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Your advisors, your faculty members, and any student success people on campus, they are connected and they can easily connect you with any of those resources. So we try to make sure we have what we call wraparound services at UNI, and that is if a student is in need, we involve a bunch of people on campus to make sure that we are addressing all of the issues. So it may seem like a lot of people get involved, but that is because we want to make sure that we approach the problem from all possible angles.
Great, Bill. I think what you're saying is really reassuring to parents to know that if they're sending their son or daughter here to UNI, that they're having not only one or two people that might be looking out for them, but a whole community of people that are working together to help a student. So that's great. And Shahina, your college has been really proactive, the College of Business, with providing some extra support for students and specifically for international students. And you've played a major role in that. Can you talk a little bit about what the College of Business has done and a little bit about the International Students in Business organization?
Yes, absolutely. So I was an international student myself a long time ago, and but I was in a little different boat because I came here as a graduate student, so I was a little older. But I observed as a faculty member when the students come in here as undergraduate students, there are issues like they may have difficulty understanding the culture or may misunderstand the culture. And then College of Business being very challenging sometimes, they struggle a little. And in the College of Business, when I noticed that there could be like actually a misunderstanding even between the way international students behave, because they come from a variety of cultures, different cultures, and it's easy to misunderstand those cultural issues. So then, so I started talking with my dean and talking with with international students in the College of Business, and they said it would be a good thing to have their own club or organization where they can help each other out and talk to somebody. So I'm kind of the designated faculty member in the College of Business to help international students in the College of Business. So they have formed a club, and this is like third year they're running. It's called International Students in Business Club. It's a very friendly group of students who try to share their feelings, and if they're struggling in class, they can help each other out, and I'm kind of their mentor. If there is something that they need to address, I could send them to, well, go to this professor, go to that professor. And we have been doing this, like, as I said, like this is my third year, but we started doing this orientation thing as soon as they come in. And I work with International Students Organization, but focus a lot more on the classes they will be taking in the College of Business and how they can succeed in this and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of academic nurturing going on as well as some social adjustment, those kind of things. So it's it's a really a friendly group. And as Bill said and everybody said that faculty are really very helpful in these situations.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question, Christy.
Yeah, definitely. And you actually gave me a great transition to the next question that we have, which is a little bit about more of the social adjustment that our international students go through. You know, some of our students might experience some homesickness or have some personal struggles. So, Bryant, will you talk a little bit about what resources UNI has to assist students that might be experiencing these things? Bryant, you need to turn on your sound.
I think one of the important things that we do offer on campus is our orientation program the first week prior to classes beginning. That really gives students the ability to connect with some of the resources, but it also gives them access to their GPS mentors. So once a student does come on campus, they meet their GPS mentor. That's their first point of connection. That's a student peer. With that student peer, that's someone who's been through the university, usually in their junior or senior year, typically, and they can help that student. So with some of the homesick or personal questions that they may not feel as easy to ask a faculty member or staff member, they can ask one of their peers. Another great resource, I think, is really just to get involved on campus. We have an amazing group of about 250 student organizations across campus where students can get engaged. There are volunteer organizations, academic organizations, as well as social organizations. So when a student does feel homesick, yes, it's always easy and very comfortable to call their family and their friends from home, but they also have to start building that community here in the Cedar Falls area. So with that community they're building on the social side, that could be in the student organization. If they are struggling to a point where they want to talk to someone that is a professional, we have our student health center, our student health clinic as well, who has emotional and well-being counseling for students in a group setting as well as individual settings. I think that's really important for students who do have the confidence to talk to someone in a large group setting, or some people may be a little bit more shy and they want to speak to an individual. So our student health clinic does an amazing job of making sure that students have access to those resources in a way that feels most comfortable and confident to them. The other thing I'll mention with that homesickness is we have what we call our family and friendship program. A lot of universities may call it a host family program. It's a non-residential program, but it does connect a student to someone in the Cedar Falls community or the Waterloo community who has lived here, who's grown here, or can truly have that family foundation for a student in a lot of ways. And, you know, for myself, I was an out-of-state student. I did feel homesick, and I know a lot of people think, oh, you're in the U.S., but you do feel homesick. You do feel like you're missing a part of a connection, especially when you have a strong family unit. I was connected to a host family that really helped my transition from home to Cedar Falls. Getting involved on campus for me was a huge thing. The student organizations that I met that helped me create a foundation of friendships that I still have today. So with those personal struggles, with that homesickness, we do have some things in place. Again, the GPS mentors are a great place to start. Getting involved on campus, I think, is an amazing activity for a lot of students, just to meet different individuals, especially even to immerse themselves in their program a bit more. Most of the majors on campus, or most of the departments, will have a student organization attached to their program, which if they do feel they're personally not connecting with their program, that's one great thing to do. But again, that social side is almost equally as important as the academics. So yeah. And then is there a second piece to that, Christy?
No, I think you covered what we were asking for. I think we were just looking to reassure our parents that, you know, when their student has a struggle, there are resources on campus. And we can't emphasize enough that students have to go and ask for help. Like, this is really important. We have all these offices, we have all these professionals, we have all these people that care, and students just need to speak up when they're having some sort of issue or struggle, and we will be able to help them find out who will be able to assist them so that they can deal with whatever they're dealing with. So,
I'll just add one more thing to that.
Yeah, please.
The Strategies for Success course that students are added on their first semester, it's a great course to get those connections, but also your faculty member who's there will check in with you. I know I do personally, I know Christy does, and some other people on this panel as well. They do check in with students. How's the semester going for you? How are you feeling? When's the last time you talked to your parents? And just to kind of see how you are doing, but also to make sure that you understand that we are here for you. We do care about you. The bond that we will have will be great, but it's also to ensure that you do find that success on a personal level as well.
Well, and I think Brian can also vouch for this. We're also accessible to the parents of our students. So we have times when the parents of our students contact us, and due to some privacy issues and laws in the US, there are certain things we can't share, but there are certain things we can share. Or if they just say, hey, can you check up on my son? I haven't heard from him in a day or two. We usually find that their son was fine. He was just in the midst of some sort of, cram studying for an exam, but we will be willing to check in. So there's people here that can do those types of things when needed. So moving along, there were some questions about safety in the U.S. And I know that when you're overseas, you see a lot of news coming out of the U.S. One of the things that were brought up is issues with guns in the U.S. And I know that concerns families greatly when they look at sending their student to study in the U.S. So there was a question about, should I be concerned about sending my child to study in Iowa? So I want to respond to that. First of all, we have statistics. Our city is a smaller college town and has both the campus and the community has been ranked one of the safest areas in the nation. So, we know that looking at crime statistics, looking at efforts that have been made to keep our citizens and students safe, that this is a very safe place for your student. When they're on campus, there's public safety, there's what we call blue emergency phones, there's other policies and procedures that have been put in place to make sure that our students stay safe and are able to have access to people who can help them if they have a problem. So in this area in Cedar Falls, we do not have an issue with guns and gun violence. We feel very comfortable bringing our students here, and like it's a very welcoming and safe environment. And if a student has any problems, we have people that are here to address those. So moving on from that, I guess would be good to talk about the Cedar Falls community and how welcoming it is to international students and what it is like to live here. Shahina, I wonder if you could start by addressing this. You've said that you were an international student that moved to the U.S., and now that you're living in Cedar Falls. How do you see Cedar Falls as a place for an international student to live?
Absolutely. This is a great place to live, and I'll give you the reasons here. When I first started working here, I felt that, I used to teach a class at 9 o'clock in the morning, and most of our students at UNI are about 90% students are from Iowa. And I would be honest, I was thinking how will they take it? And at that time, 20 years ago, they're probably just have seen a brown person, probably on a TV, nowhere else. So, and with a funny accent. So I was aware of those. But in 2-3 minutes, and we just flew with the rhythm of the class. Nothing was there to think about who I am or who they are. So it was so welcoming, and not as a faculty member, but I would not have made this my home away from home. And the reason I lived in other places, well, as a grad student, but I lived in LA for 3-4 months to do my postdoctoral fellowship. And when I went to LA, I thought, meaning Los Angeles, I thought I need to go back to Cedar Falls, Iowa. And I know many students who are really young think that, yeah, the big city is the America they knew or saw on TV, but It's a really a nice community, very closely bonded community. There are people to help you out, not only faculty and fellow students. Um, you can go anywhere in Cedar Falls, Iowa, and you will meet someone from UNI. It is very welcoming. People are very respectful of other cultures, and people are very respectful of how people talk and very understanding of all these situations. So I've been living in Cedar Falls, Iowa for like let's say 23, 24 years. My son was born and raised here. I just absolutely love this place. I even plan to retire here. So I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, Shahina. I think you touched on a lot of the highlights of Cedar Falls. Does anyone else on the panel have anything you want to add about living in the Cedar Valley or things that you think that would be attractive to international students?
Yeah, I will add that I think the environment here is great. It's very green. We get all 4 seasons. Summers here are pretty nice. You get to kayak, and we have lakes and trails and things like that. So if you're into outdoor activities, we have lots of those available to you. Another thing, the International Friendship Program, as I mentioned earlier, is a great program for students. So it really does show how welcoming and curious our native Iowa population is to international students, to invite them into their homes, to make them a part of their families in a way. And then some of the services that we have in the community, they Met Transit for our public transportation, as well as some of the grocery stores here do have some of the ingredients and spices that our international population is looking for, including some of the restaurants as well, Thai food, Chinese food, Pakistani food, Indian food. So we do have some of the local cuisine that students can access when they are feeling a little homesick. So the Cedar Falls community, it may not be as racially diverse as people expect the U.S. to be, but I think the feeling that you get here is a positive feeling. It's a welcoming, a heartwarming feeling that I know students truly appreciate as they study here.
Brian, I'm glad you brought up food, because I think food is always top on our students' minds. So I did want to mention that both on campus and the community, there is access to different types of cuisines, as you mentioned, but also halal options. So we have some restaurants that are right close to campus that have halal options. Also in our dining center and in our student union, students are able to access halal options. So if that's a special dietary need they have. Also, if there's any other dietary needs that students have, they just need to talk to our university dining, and they'll be able to accommodate those as well. One last thing about location. Some of our students, when I talk to them, they say, oh, I really want to go study in a big city. I've heard about New York or Chicago, LA. And those are all really great places to visit. Those are places in the U.S. that are very famous. One thing we'll emphasize is our city is not a big city. It's a smaller city, but it's a very close-knit community. And if I think about sending my children, and I actually had 2 sons that graduated from UNI. Dave, you have 2 boys that one graduated and one is at UNI. I mean, we know that this is the type of environment, the type of place where we think is a really good, healthy, supportive place for them. So as far as the city's concerned, it's a good size. There's support and things for students to do, but not as many distractions as a bigger city. And certainly if you look at things like safety and ease of getting around, and also issues with like pollution and that type of thing, I think a city like Cedar Falls is a really nice option. So, all right, so there's questions. We've gotten a lot of questions about finances, and we know we're all parents. We know that this is a big issue for all of us, and that is how you afford your child's education. So the questions that were asked is what type of financial aid is available to international students? So I'll start by saying that, at UNI, first of all, if you look at our costs compared to the type of institution we are, so we are a public comprehensive university. So compared to what we have to offer, our price is actually one of the more affordable costs for the type of university we are. In fact, we're ranked in the top 25 for students for universities under 30,000. So first of all, we're very lucky to be an affordable university. We get funding from our state. There's only 3 public universities in the state of Iowa, so the funding is distributed between the 3 universities, and we get funding that helps us make it more affordable for our students. So our price tag, you'll see already, is a lot lower than a lot of other universities. But then beyond that, we do try to offer opportunities for students to earn some scholarship aid to help make it even more affordable. So we do have an International Scholar Award. This is based on SAT or ACT. So students just need to take those exams, submit those, and based on a certain score, and that's all on our website, they'll be able to automatically earn those scholarships. We also have an International Excel Award that students can apply for, and this one considers their grades, their tests, and their community service and volunteerism and activities. So we have these 2 primary awards to help make our price tag a little more affordable for families. They are not full scholarships, they're partial awards. Both of these scholarships have a maximum of $5,000. So, families do need to have the means to be able to support their student, but these are making you and I even more affordable. I'll also mention we have lots of jobs on campus. Most of our international students work on campus. They can work up to 20 hours a week. This not only gives them great experience, but it does give them a little bit of money to help pay for maybe some of their personal expenses. Students can usually make about $2,000 per semester on a campus job. So these are the primary means of financial aid. Bill, you want to add something?
I would point out with those on-campus jobs that they are going to work around the student's class schedule. So that's one of the big advantages. They are going to make sure that your student can have time to go to class, and they're very accommodating. Some of our American students may work off campus, and they have issues at times with getting their hours in and still getting to class. So I always tell them to go for the on-campus job because they work a lot better with their schedules.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Bill. I think our students have found that they've been able to fit in classes, studying, and working because those jobs are pretty flexible. So, Brian, is there other things that I missed that you want to contribute to this topic?
I think our graduate population, they do have access to apply for assistantships with their department. So if they do want to work with the department, do research, we do have those options for students as well. And again, it's all on our website. So yeah.
Okay, and one last thing I will mention is cost of living in Iowa. I mean, we talked a little before about going to the big cities, and those are great places to live, but they're expensive places to live. Even if you just look at going to a movie in New York City versus going to a movie in Cedar Falls. I was shocked when I was there that it was like $3 more to go to a movie, same movie. So, little things like that will help your students save money if they're living in Cedar Falls just because things cost less. So I think that's an important thing to note. One other thing I'll mention, we mentioned that students can work on campus. There are some occasions where students can work off campus. This is typically related when they find a job that's related to their major, their field of study. They can do what's called CPT, Curricular Practical Training, and we will help them with this. We have a career services office that can help them find some of these positions, and then we will help them make sure that they get approval to be able to work off campus in these types of positions. So that might be an opportunity for your student. Not usually their first year, but beyond their first year, it might be an option. So I'm just going to tell you, we're wrapping up here. We only have a few more questions. So if you have questions, please get them in so we'll make sure to answer them. but I will go along with some of our other questions that we already received. And this one relates to a little bit what I was just talking about. And Bill, maybe can you talk a little bit about what UNI does to help prepare students for a strong career or to be able to get into grad school? What are the types of things we provide for students?
Right. And I do want to remind you, I have to leave at 11. So if I disappear,
Okay.
it's because I had to go to another Zoom meeting.
Okay.
But what does UNI do? Yeah. So we have an internship. Almost every major is going to have an internship kind of placement. It's going to look a little different by major. In my major, it's a 9-credit internship. You work 400 hours. We pair you with a nonprofit or an organization in Iowa or where you're from. You get a supervisor. I tell students that's a really good way to have kind of that soft landing into being a worker. You can make mistakes and you're going to get feedback. They're going to help you be a better employee. Also, if you do 400 hours worth of work for a company and they have a job open up, it's very likely that you are going to be first on their list to hire. So it's a really good way to get your foot in the door. So that's kind of the employment side. As far as graduate school, I went to a big R1 university, Research One, Iowa State. And I did not get to do a lot of work with faculty members. So as an undergrad, I spent a lot of time in classes. I maybe participated in some research. I come from a psychology background, but I did not get to work with faculty. My wife, who is a faculty at UNI, went to UNI as an undergrad. She got to work with professors on research. She got to run experiments. And when we both applied to graduate school, she was much more competitive because she had that experience. So the long part of that is faculty are more than willing to work with students. They want students to participate, and students are going to get a lot of one-to-one interaction with their faculty, and that is incredibly invaluable when it comes to applying to graduate school. When you apply to graduate school, the first thing they want to know is, what experience do you have doing research? If I take you on as a graduate student, are you going to be able to help me with my research? Are you going to be able to help me teach my courses? And if you're a student who has that one-to-one interaction and you've been a research assistant or a teaching assistant in undergrad, it makes you super competitive. And there's just no better way to put that. And at UNI, because of our class size, because of kind of the ethos that we run by, we want to make it very student interactive. You're going to get tons of time to be around faculty and learn.
Great. Thanks, Bill, and thanks for joining us if we don't get a chance to say goodbye to you as you slip away. So, but I will go over to Dave. Dave, do you have anything to add to that as far as how the curriculum prepares students to be successful after they graduate?
Yeah, and Bill alluded to it. There are things that are intentionally built into the curriculums, whether it be experiential learning, whether it be in-class projects. But I would also mention, and you alluded to career services providing internship connections. But as we've talked about, UNI is a small community. It's very hands-on, and UNI is a place where people can get experience and take advantage of these opportunities. So working one-on-one with a professor like Bill talked about, but even getting involved with student organizations and activities, the hands-on experiential learning is really important, both personally and professionally for students. And it gives students a chance to make that. And there's tons of opportunities to be able to do that, both on campus as well as outside the community, to be able to help them learn and grow, not just to build a resume and prepare for grad school, but also to help the student understand, this is what I can do, this is how I can do it, and this is what my skills and strengths are to be successful both here at UNI and after graduation.
Yeah, I think these are all really important. I know that our families overseas are investing a lot of money to have their students come study in the US, and they're very anxious to know what that return on investment might look like. I mean, two things that I'll share that might be relevant. One of them is that at UNI, we have more internship offers for our students than we have students to fill them. So I think that's very encouraging in knowing that your student, if they are eager and wanting to have an internship, that there's those options out there. The second one is our career services report that 96% of our graduates find jobs or get into graduate school within 6 months of graduating. So we're seeing that our students are being successful. Brian and I, probably could do a whole nother webinar talking about the success of our international students who have graduated from UNI and what they've gone on to do. So I know for sure we have a lot of positive results from the students that have been at UNI. So I don't see any other questions that have come in. So I have one last question for our panel. Bill, since you're still around, I'll let you answer first. And that is, how should a parent know if UNI is a good fit for my student and their family? So what were your last words for the parents here?
Speaking from a faculty and then a somewhat of an administrator point that works up, in the higher levels of administration at times. I don't know if I've ever been, and I've worked at the University of Colorado, University of Kansas, Iowa State. I don't know if I've ever seen a university that spends more time on making sure students are successful. Every student we have here, we do a lot of work to make sure they're successful. So if that's what you want, if you want your student to be successful, to graduate, to have those experiences that make you a really good employee and a really good person out in the community, I think that's why it's a good fit. Obviously, for graduate school, students probably going to end up going to an R1. And I tell my students that when you go to graduate school, especially if it's in psychology, an R1 is going to be the place you go, but you're not going to be able to mimic the hands-on experience that you get here at UNI. So I would just say, if you want to interact with faculty a lot, if you want your student taken care of, this is the place to be. Great. Thanks, Bill. Dave, do you have some final words?
Yeah, I just mentioned, and I have, as you mentioned, 2 kids who've gone here. They're each very different. UNI provides an opportunity for any student to find their fit, where they belong, what they want to take advantage of, what will be important to them, how they want to engage. And so it's really that opportunity to be able to do that and help them to grow both personally and professionally for success after graduation.
Great. Thank you for that. Shahina, what are your final thoughts?
If I were a mother or parent sitting in another country, I would always send my kid to UNI, because it's first thing I would be worried about: is this safe? Is this welcoming? Will my child be harassed? And all those are well taken care of at UNI. It's a safe place. We don't have any trouble going to a grocery store or to watch a good movie. We won't have to wait in lines and deal with traffic jams and transportation. There's always in there. All in here. Faculty are very supportive, so is the whole community. So those things would really matter to me. But at the same time, I know our kids are younger, so they want to have some fun. They have seen bigger cities, but I would tell you one thing, that Chicago and Minnesota and St. Louis and Kansas City all are in like 4 hours driving distance from Cedar Falls. So, and I know that International Student Office take them to tours in Chicago and Minnesota, so they would know how those experiences, they would also learn those experiences. So UNI is like a small school, but with a much bigger school experience. We do all the things that all the big schools would do, but we do provide a much more closely bonded environment, and we'll take care of your kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahina. Your thoughts have been really great. We appreciate you sharing with us today. And
Thank
Brian,
you.
I'm going to let you have the final thought. Can you share with us and our families what you think UNI has to offer them?
Definitely. I travel and I get questions from parents and students and counselors quite a bit of, how do you know it's the right fit? And I thank Shahina for talking about the safety aspect, the academic piece Bill covered. So I think for me, the social aspect, the student experience is so key here. Students truly do have an opportunity to immerse themselves and engage, not just in their major, but across campus in general. They will truly learn skills and abilities and knowledge that will be helpful for them for their entire lives. I think UNI does an amazing job about building a curriculum that does give you soft skills as well as skills to take to an employer that just unmatched in a lot of other universities I've engaged with or been on. So this is a student experience that's very, very engaging for students. I know that a parent may not be able to see that right away, but as a student develops and they grow, you will see the growth in your student alone, but also see how they can take the things they've learned here and apply them to their adult life post campus. And I think that's something that's really key and important. You know.
All right, thank you. And thank you to all of our panelists for all their thoughts, for taking their time, for sharing their stories and the roles that they play in supporting our international students. And we just want to send a message out to the people watching and the parents of our students to let them know that we are accessible. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at international.admissions@uni.edu, or you can come on our Facebook page, or we have other means that we can set up a time to talk with you. So we are available and willing to answer any questions and work with any concerns you might have. So thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you and welcoming your son or daughter to UNI. Thanks.
Thank you.